Hello guys, Alan here and welcome to the most authoritative Revit tutorial channel you can ever find on YouTube. And in this video we are going to continue from wherever we left off in roofs in Revit part 4. So this is going to be part 5 of our roofs in Revit course we are having in Revit. So in this video we're going to talk about the fascia boards, the roof soffits, and then also we are going to explore some parts of our roof gutters in Revit. So this video is mainly going to be about fascia boards, the roof soffits, and also roof gutters in Revit. So I want you guys to sit back and just sit back and relax and make sure you follow along with every step in the way. And I'm going to be teaching you guys how you can actually get and achieve all of those stuff inside of Revit. So we're going to start off, but before we start off I need to get a simple structure out where we can use to demonstrate or use to have an example of what we'll be doing in here. So let me just get into my architecture tab and click on my wall, and let me just draw out a simple 200 wall in there. Alright, so let me just bring this to somewhere around here. Okay, this is fine. And now I need to put a roof on it. So I need to make sure I find my roof in my build part. Alright, in my build section I make sure I find my roof in there, and then just click on that. And of course we want that roof to be on level 2, so this is going to be a basic generic 400 millimeter. So I can decide to change that by myself. Okay, so let me just go with the generic 400 is fine, and I'm using my pick wall tool, and then I'm going to give it an overhang of about 900 millimeters. All right, so like I said guys, with this overhang figures you see me putting in here is going to be to your building regulation in your country. All right, so you should make sure you know the regulations for your country, and then you apply that same dimension in your overhangs. All right, so that's how you can create your roof eaves. So you need to put in the figure you want in there. So maybe let's say with your building regulation you are supposed to design with a minimum of 600, so you can put that in there, and then you just put your mouse pointer in there, and it's going to offset that away from the wall 600 millimeters away. All right, so with me I have an overhang of 900 millimeters. Well, that's what we do here in Ghana, in Accra. So I just give it an overhang of 900 millimeters on all sides. So I'm going to finish this roof and don't attach. All right, make sure you always select don't attach when you see that message. All right, if you want to be on the safer side. So I'm going to click on my default 3D view icon in there, which is this building, and I have my wall going all the way up. So I can just put my mouse pointer on one, hit on my tab key once, select all of that, and then I check my top constraint. So I'm going to send all of that to level 2, bring my mouse pointer in, and this is perfect. So I have this in there which is gone all the way up to level 2. So I can hide all this elevation markers line in there. So it's just EH on your keyboard. So just select everything and then EH on your keyboard, and it hides everything in there. Okay, so this is perfect. So now let's start with the roof fascia. All right, let's start with the roof fascia boards in there. In Accra we say fascia boards, so let's start with the fascia boards. All right, so to be able to access your fascia board, you need to click on the drop down menu right beneath the roof in there. So when you click on that drop down menu and then you move to this section in here, you notice we have the roof soffit, we have the roof fascia, and then we have the roof gutter. So we are going to start off with the roof fascia. All right, so we are going to click on that, and when you head into the properties panel, you're going to notice we have just only this family. All right, just fascia, it's just a single family. So we have just this fascia, which is just a single family in there. We do not have types like when we get into the wall tab, where we have different types of walls for us to be able to choose. We just have just a single family in there. So if you want to create multiple, which I'll be getting into, if you want to create different types of fascia, you would have to get into the edit type, and then you duplicate this. All right, we are going to duplicate this fascia family. All right, so we can duplicate that family, but I'm not going to duplicate this now. I'm just going to demonstrate how we can use our fascia boards in there. All right, so now when you select the fascia, it's active in here. So now you notice when I place my mouse pointer, it's going to place that not on the walls but any part of the roof. All right, you notice when I place my mouse pointer in here, it's going to draw a roof fascia in there, but when I place it on the vertical part, it's not snapping to that. It's not showing that that line is actually active. So when I put this on the horizontal part, you notice it turns on that blue line, which means I can place a fascia on that particular line of my roof. All right, so with this line, we do not want a fascia in there. With a ridge cap, we do not want a fascia over there and not on this side. So we want them on this side as well. We want them just on this side. All right, so if I should just click on in here, you notice a fascia board has been placed in here. All right, so let me just turn on some shadows in there. So now you notice a fascia board has been placed in here. All right, so if I should change this to here and I click right there, you notice a fascia board has also been placed in here. Now let me just escape out of there, select my roof, head into edit type, and let me just change the thickness of my roof. So let me just send my roof to about 150. It's fine. Let me put that thickness to 150. All right, so this is perfect. All right, so I have my roof to 150 with the thickness. So I'm going to get back into my roof facial and then click right in there. So it's active. So if I should place a facial, if I should make a mistake and place the facial on the bottom part of the roof, all right, on the bottom part of the roof instead of placing it on the top part in here. All right, so that's one way you can actually correct that. Let me just escape out of there. So you can just click on the roof and then you select this add and remove segments, and then you click on the same part in there and then it deletes that facial out of there. All right, and then you can now place a new facial on the top part in there. All right, so that's one way you can actually get rid of that in there. So you can place a facial on the top in here, and you can place a facial also in here as well. You can restart facial, and then you can click right on the bottom and it creates one in there, and then also click right on the bottom of the roof and it's going to create that in there. So we can delete this facial out of there. So now one thing you also need to know when it comes to facial boards in Revit, all right, so if I should select this and we have these arrows in here, all right, so if I should click on this arrow, it's going to flip that to look to the top. All right, it's going to flip that to come all the way to the top in there, all right, to the line that I clicked. All right, if I should click the bottom in here and then I flip that, it's going to cover that to get to the top in there. All right, and then if I should extend this, it's going to change that. This is not really doing any work, all right, since we have the same facial faces. All right, it's just a square with both faces being equal. But if we should have a design in here, then this is going to become very important because we do not want our design inside of the roof. We want it facing outside. So I'm going to click this to bring this back to where it's supposed to be. Click on this and then flip this to the front. Okay, so this is perfect. So we have this facial board in here, which is perfect. Now if you want to create different kind of facial boards, or we want to create our own family of a facial board, so if I should select, let me just escape out of there, and then I should just click on this drop down menu, head into the roof facial in there, and then when I get into edit type, I can make sure I duplicate this view. I think I'm fine with the name. You can name it whatever name you want, so I think I'm fine with facial 2. And then when you head into the profile, so you notice we have several profiles in there. We have the metal profile, a metallic profile, a steel profile, and we have, if you want to make it longer or shorter, we have all of those profiles in there. All right, so now we can create our own personal profile, our own custom profile, which I'm going to be showing you guys how you can do that in Revit. So I'm going to show you guys how you can create that custom profile in there so you can use in your facial board design. All right, so let me just escape out of there, and you can specify a material to each and every single profile, to each and every single facial board. So you can click right there on the 3 dots in there, and you can head into the material library, and then you can specify a material for that particular facial board you have in there. All right, so I'm going to escape out of there, cancel this, and we are going to create our own facial board. All right, so I'm going to delete all of these facial boards, escape out of there, and just select everything, DE, select everything, and then DE, select this as well, DE, and turn to the other side, and then you can select this as well and DE. So one thing you can do is you can just hover on the facial board, and then you hit on the tab key once, and then it selects everything, and then you can DE out of there. You can delete that out of the way. So we are going to create our own custom facial, and then we are going to put that on this roof we have in here. So what you need to do is head into files, click on file, head into the new, and then you head straight into the family tab. All right, so when you click on the family tab in there, make sure you are in your English template, all right, and not in the imperial template, since we are working with the imperial system, since we are working with the metric system. All right, so we want to find, so now when you head into the English tab, there are several templates Revit is going to bombard you with. All right, you're going to be bombarded with a lot of templates, so you need to make sure you find the right template. So what we are going to find is the metric profile templates, because we are going to draw just a profile of that the facial board we have in there. So you can click on this metric profile template, and then you click on open in there. All right, and then you can see we head into this family generation mode. I call this the family generator mode. So this is where we create our own custom families inside of Revit. You can actually create every single thing. I think I'm going to design my own custom car design inside of Revit. I'm going to design my own car family type in Revit one of these days, and then I'm going to put that on YouTube and show you guys how you can actually do that. But first, I think I'll need to have to go and learn from Balkan Architect, because he seems to know everything inside of Revit at the moment. So from what I learned from Balkan Architect, when you open this reference, this metric profile template app, now where we would want to draw our profile template will be in this quadrant. All right, you do not want to draw in this quadrant. I have actually not drawn in any of this quadrant to see what is really going to happen, because Balkan Architect told me if I should draw a profile with a facial board profile, I would want to draw it in this quadrant, so just in this space we have in here, not in this space. All right, so we are going to draw that in there. So now before we draw that, we will need to find a specific height for our facial board. So what we can do is we can just click on line, and then we can draw a line in there. All right, so this is how Balkan Architect taught me to do that. So we can draw a line in here and just click on our line, and you notice the height of our roof is set to I reduced the thickness of our roof to 150. So I'm going to design this facial board to actually be just the 150 like thickness of that roof in there. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to change this to 150. So I have this 150 mm from here to this line right here. So I have the 150 mm from this line to this line right there, which is perfect. And we are going to draw out our facial board design. So I'm going to draw out a line from this to this, and probably I'm going to bring this somewhere around here to about 50. 50 is fine. And let me just toggle and turn on my thin lines, because I think my facial board lines are becoming very thick. So I'm going to extend this to about 10, extend this to also 10, and I'm going to use this and extend this somewhere around here and bring this in here, and then I'm going to change this to a straight line, bring this somewhere around here, and just 5, and then I'm going to bring this all the way down in here. All right, so this is perfect. I think I have my facial. Let me just extend this part to about 80. Nope, this is too much. 8. Okay, so I think I'm fine with this. Let me just extend this to this side. Okay, so this is perfect. I can click right there, and this 6.7, I can make this 7. Alright, so this is fine. And what we want to do now is we want to trim and extend this boundary line we used to just caution ourselves on the height. Alright, so TR on your keyboard, and you can just click on this, and then you click right there, and click on this, and then you click right there, and then it trims that in there. So this is perfect. We have this in there, and now we would want to set this family. We want to set this family type to an instance parameter where we can actually manipulate the height in case we should have a roof of maybe, let's say, the 400 millimeter thickness. All right, with this fascia board we are designing for our 150 millimeter thickness of that roof in there. All right, so we would want to set a parameter for that. You are going to understand why I said we want to set a parameter for all of that in there. So what we can do now is we can just click on our dimension tool in there, and when you click on the dimension tool, you'll want to dimension from here to this bottom right here. So you notice we have this 150 mm in there. All right, so escape out of there, and you can click on that dimension in there, and when you click on the dimension in there, you'd want to head straight into the label dimension tab. All right, and you want to create a parameter for that. So you want to keep that on a family parameter, and we are going to call this our height. All right, so we are going to call this height. So how do we spell height in there? I hope I'm right, guys. Sometimes I usually even forget how to spell my name. So this is how we spell the height in there. So we want to call this our height, and we want it to be a type parameter. All right, so we are cool with that, and we are going to finish this, and we have this in there, our height being equal to 150 mm. All right, so now if I should leave this the way it is, all right, it's going to reduce and even reduce this design we have in there if we should manipulate the height. So what we want to do is, we do not want at any point in time when we change the height, it should also affect this small design we have at the top in here. All right, so what you're going to want to do is, you're going to want to dimension from this part right here to this part right here, which we have the 50. And when you do that, what you want to do is you want to lock that in there. So this is perfect. So you make sure you lock this dimension in there. So it's going to lock this part in, where if we should change the height, it's not going to worry or affect this. The height is only going to affect this thin line long facial design we have in here. All right, so this is what we want to do. This is what we want to achieve in here. So I think we are fine, and we can head into the just bring that back, and we can head into the family type properties in there, and we have this in here. So if I should change the height to, let's say, 200 mm, hit on apply, you notice it affects only the thin part in there. It's not going to affect our design we have in here. So we can change this back to 150, and we can hit on apply, hit on OK in there. This is perfect. I can get in here and also create different types in there. So I can create different types. I can call this type, let's call this AA hyphen type 1. all right, that stands for Alan Architectural type 1 in there, and we can click on that. We have that in there, and then we can create more types in there. So let's call this type 2, and we can change that for type 2. We can keep the type 2 at 200. It's fine. Okay, so this is fine. And now what you want to do is, let me head back in here and then just put that on type 1, hit on apply, hit on OK. All right, so now before we can load this into the project, we need to save this first. So you need to make sure you save this. So Control S on your keyboard, and I'm going to save that at the document side. All right, so I'm going to call this what should I call this? I'm going to call this Fascia custom profile. All right, so Fascia custom profile in there, which is perfect. All right, so I'm going to save that, and I'm going to load into the project and close. All right, so it's loaded up into my project in here. So I'm going to place that custom profile, Fascia profile we have in there. So I'm going to click on my roof, head into my roof facial, and get into edit type, and then I'm going to duplicate this, call this Fascia 2. I'm fine with that, and then I head into my facial profile in there, and you can see we have those types created in there. So we had a type 2, which was 200 millimeters in there, and then we have the type 1, which is 150. So we are going to use type 1, which is the custom profile type 1, and I think I'm fine with that. And we can place this custom profiles in there. All right, so this custom facial profile in there, so we can put that on each and every single part of our roof in there. So this is fine. Let me just check the thickness of my roof in there. Okay, so this is perfect. So now you notice we have this facial on our roof, which is perfect in there, and this is quite perfect. So this is how you create a custom facial profile in there. So you can try, and then you can create your own custom profiles, create a template, and then you can create those custom profiles you have in there. All right, so now we are going to move on to our next topic, which is going to be the roof soffit. All right, so we are going to talk a little about the roof soffit and how we can use that, and then we move to our roof gutter in there. All right, so I'm going to delete all of this my profiles in there and delete all of those profiles. So I'm going to head into level 2 in there, and we're going to talk about our roof soffit in there. So what you need to do is just click on the drop down menu underneath the roof, and then you head straight into the roof soffit in there. We have that on top of our roof fascia, so we can click on that. And when you click on that, what you want to do is you need to select this pick line. First of all, you need to select your pick wall, and then you can pick this wall we have in here. All right, so you can pick this wall, and then it's going to create all of those pick all of those walls in there, which is perfect. We can pick all of these walls, and we have all of this picked up. And when you head into the properties panel, you notice we just have just one generic family in there. So we can head into the edit type, and then we can duplicate this, and we can call this our type 2, get into edit type, and we can change the thickness to about 50. All right, so we can change that thickness to about 50. And what we need to do next is just use our pick line tools, and then we pick the edges of those roofs as well, which is perfect. So then we can finish that, and when we finish that and head into the 3D view, you notice we have this roof offset in there. All right, it's not moved all the way to that top in there. So we can head into any of the elevation views in here, and we can change our visual style to wireframe, and we can select this roof soffit, and then we can select the bottom in there, and then we can snap that to the bottom also in here. So this is perfect, and we can change this back to hidden line. Head into our 3D view, and you notice we have our roof facial in there, which is perfect. All right, so we have this roof facial in our roof in there. Now this roof facial seems very easy in there, but what if our roof should have a different shape? All right, let's say if our roof should have a different shape. So if I should click right there and head into edit footprint, and I should select this and then undefine the slopes for that, so I can finish that in there. And you notice we do not have our roof facial also going to the top in there. We need our roof facial to also go to the top in there, which we do not have at the moment. So we need to design a roof facial for this portion of our roof as well. We need to do that, and we need to put a facial board also on this side. So we can head into this tab right here, get into the facial board, and we can click right and get into edit type, and we can change this custom profile. So we can use the 2mm, hit on apply, hit on OK, put this in here, and we can put this in here, and we can put this also in here. So we have those roof facials in there. So let's put this, and let's put this here, and also we have one in there already. So yes, so this is perfect. You can escape out of there. So now if we want to put a roof soffit to go all the way up in there to cover all of those space, so let me just select this wall in there and just select top attach, and then attach that in there. So we need to make sure we have this soffit also going up to this side. All right, we need to make sure it's slanted in there, and I'm going to show you guys how you can actually do that. So we can just click on this roof soffit, get into edit boundary in there, and what we can do now is to let's split those lines. All right, so I'm going to try and model some things in the 3D view. So I'm going to split this line and also split that line in there, and TR on my keyboard, trim and extend this to this. Okay, this is perfect. And then I'm going to trim and extend this to this, and then I'm going to delete all of these lines I have in here. So this is perfect, and then I'm going to finish this. This is perfect in there. So I have this roof facial in there. So now I need to make sure this roof soffit is also slanted to this side. So I need to get into level 2, and when when I head into level 2 in there, what I can do now is I can just change my visual style to wireframe. So you need to make sure you change that visual style so you can see the roof Soffit beneath in there, which is perfect. So I have that roof Soffit in the beneath in there, which I can see. So now I can draw that slanted facial, that slanted Soffit to this side. All right, so we can get back into our roof tab, get into the Soffit, and we can draw that roof Soffit in there. So let me just start from somewhere around in here. So I need to make sure I find the center of that particular roof, that particular wall in there, because I want it to go all the way up to the top. So I find the center, and then I can move this to this side. So I have this on this line right here. So I have it at the center in here. So if I should head into the 3D view, you notice I have that at the center. So now with this, let me just push this to this side, get into any of my elevation views. Let me head into the west elevation. Okay, so probably let me get into the south and head into the east elevation. Okay, so this is perfect. The east elevation is perfect. So with this, you're going to want to draw that roof Soffit to come all the way to the down part in here. Right, so with this, it's going to start from somewhere around in here, and it's going to slant in there, which you do not want. So we want to make sure we have this slant. We want it to start all the way from here and then slant and flash along with the facial board we have in here. So to flash all the way to the top bottommost part in here. So I'm going to show you guys how you can actually achieve that. But before we do that, we need to measure. All right, we need to measure those distances. So let me just finish this by the way, and then I can click on my measure tool in there, and then I can start from here, and then I end right here. So what I have on that space in there, so you can click right there, what I have on that space there for a total length is 98.1. all right, so we have 98.1. You make sure you write that down somewhere. So I have 98.1 in here, and I'm going to want to measure from here also to this part right here, and I have 186. So you can make sure you write that down. So 1836.0. so we have that in there, which is this dimension. You can see it in the total length. You can copy that. All right, so I can actually copy that. So Control C to copy, and we can escape out of there. All right, so we can escape out of there. We can click back on our roof Soffit, head into the edit boundary, and of course we cannot edit that in this view, so we need to go into the level 1 view, or we can head into the level 2 view. So this is perfect. And what we are going to do now is we are going to select our slope arrow, and we want that to slope all the way to the end in here. All right, so now when you draw that slope arrow, you're going to notice when you head into the properties panel, you're going to notice we have the height offset at tail, all right, which is this part right here, and we want to put in the negative 98.1 in there, and then with the height offset at head, you're going to want to put in that dimension we measured on the center. All right, so we have this dimension going in there, and then you can finish this, and make sure you save your project, guys. So I can head into the 3D view, and then you're going to notice we have that flashing exactly with that facial board in there. All right, so this is going all the way to the center in there, and we can mirror that to the other side. So you can select this, and then you draw axis, the mirror tool, and then you mirror that to the other side. So let's head into the 3D view. Okay, I didn't find the center, so let me just delete that, select this, head into the 3D view, draw by axis, and then I can mirror this to the side in there, head into my 3D view, and this is perfect. So we have this mirrored to this side, which is perfect. We have this in there. Now you're going to notice we have to make sure we cover all of these spaces. So in covering the spaces is kind of like very tricky. Things can move from simple mathematics to rocket science. So in covering those spaces in there, what Balkan architect taught me, he said there are two ways we can actually do that. So what Balkan architect really taught us was, and let me just select this, so you can move that to flash exactly with that in there. All right, so you can head in here, and then I can change that visual style to wireframe, and then I can move this to flash right in there. So this is perfect. Get in here, head into my hidden frame, hidden line. All right, so this is perfect. So now what Balkan architect taught us on how we can actually cover this space we have in here is one way we can do that is we can actually use the facial boards we have in there. So we can click on the roof, get into the facial board and head into edit type, and we can make sure we select a much longer one to represent our roof we have in there. So we can hit on apply in there, and then we can click right here and you can flip that. All right, we can flip that. So if we have this going all the way to the end, we can actually move this to this side. All right, and then we can keep this here, and then we can flip this all the way up in here. All right, so we can move this down, and we have this facial board in here. All right, so we can actually change those heights in there with a vertical profile offset. You can give it a vertical profile offset. So let's say I give it 200, it comes down, vertical profile, and let me just keep that at -500, and you notice it goes up. So this is the vertical profile offset. With the horizontal is going to offset horizontally away from that in there. So we can put in back our 0, and we can actually extend this to touch with that roof facial in there, which is kind of like a lot of work. So what Balkan architect said we can do is we can actually use a model in place component. All right, so we can use that model in place component, and then we can do that in there. So we can put those model in place components, and then we put that in there, which is perfect. So you notice this is also moving along with that. So let me just turn this to this side, and then I can select all of this and just deselect my roof, head into my wireframe, and I can move that to go all the way to touch with that. Okay, so this is perfect. Head into the 3D type and hidden line, and we have that flashing with that. This is perfect. All right, so what we can do is we can use a model in place component to actually cover that space. So let me show you guys how you can actually use the model in place component. So it says go into model. When you get into the component tab, you head into the model in place, and then you scroll all the way down to make sure you find roofs in there, and we are good with roof 1 in there. And what you want to do is you want to select this, you want to set a work plane. All right, so you want to set this, and then you want to pick a plane. So you click on OK, and what he said was he likes to draw this at the bottom. You want to pick the bottommost part of the roof soffit. So we can select this, and then we can draw this extrusion. We can use this extrusion line and then draw this lines in there. All right, so we can draw that line to this part, and we can draw this in here, and then we can draw this also in here. We can draw the space actually in here. So we have this in here. Let me just turn this to this side, and we have this, so we can select this as well. And what we can do next is we can trim and extend. So let's just trim and extend for starters. So TR, and then you want to trim this to this, and this is fine. With this, I want this line to come all the way to somewhere around here, so I can keep this somewhere around here. So okay, so this is fine, and we can still use our pick line too, and head into our edit type. So we are creating something of a box-like shape. All right, something of that box-like shape form. So I can delete this out of there, and I can just extend this line. So I can just click right there, and then I can extend this to about 20 in here, and TR on my keyboard to just trim and extend this together, and then TR on my keyboard to also trim and extend this to this other part in here. So we can finish this, and we have this in here which you can see. So you can change this to actually flip this to the top to actually cover that side we have in there. So you notice we have a little problem. All right, we have this portion in here which is kind of like extruding all the way into our roof in there, which we do not want. So we would want to actually get rid of this, and we want to shift this also to the inside a little. Want to shift this to the inside a little. All right, want to make sure it's actually on the same page. All right, so this is perfect. Cancel, Control Z, Control Z. Okay, this is perfect. All right, so now we want to get rid of this space in there. So what we can do is we can head into create, and then we can use this void extrusion we have in there, and I can change this to the face we have here, and I can make sure I set a plane, pick a plane in there, and I can pick a plane, and you do want to pick the face of that that extrusion we just made in there. So you can click right here, and then you can draw this to this side and also draw this to this side, and bring this somewhere around here, and also bring this to the end right here. So you can finish this, and then you can extend this, and then it's going to get rid of that extrusion we had in there. All right, so if it comes up a little bit, we can actually kill that in there. We can kill all of that in there. So this is it, and we can specify materials to that. So we can finish this, and we have this in there, and of course we can join geometries in there. We can join those geometries in there to actually create a perfect roof in there. So this is how you can do that in there, and of course we can just mirror this to the other side, and then we have this going all the way to the other side. So finish that, head into our 3D view. Okay, so it's not coming all the way to this side, so we need to make sure we mirror correctly. So we have this in here. Get into our 3D view. Let me just select this, head into the 3D view, and then draw by axis, and we can just draw that to come all the way in here. So we can head into our 3D view, and then we have this also in here, which is finished perfectly, just like this other part we have in here. So this is how you can actually draw the soffits, the roof soffits, to also incline into that space in there, and how you can cover up those spaces we have in here. So you can join the geometry for that as well. You can join all of this geometries in there we have, and it's going to join perfectly in there, which is perfect. Escape out of there, then you have this perfect roof in there. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the next topic, which is the roof gutters in there. All right, so with the roof gutters, you need to make sure you are in your architecture tab, and then right beneath that you're going to find that at the last button. So we can click on the roof gutter, and then you notice we just have just one gutter in there. So what you can do is you need to make sure we place that on the bottom part in there. So we can place that on this bottom part in there, and with this roof gutters, they are going to collect all the water. They are going to collect all the water on our roof. Actually, they are going to collect all the water on that roof in there. So you're going to want to sometimes place that at the top. All right, so you can keep that at the top, and then it's going to just collect all of those water in there. All right, so you can select all of these, just select all of these and delete all of that. So I'm going to show you guys a little trick in there. So we can put this roof gutters in here, and then we can just put this roof gutter in here. Now you notice with the roof gutters, we do not have a cap that is going to actually cover this side. So we don't have any capping that is covering this side. So you need to make sure you create a family that is actually going to cover all of those sides in there. So you need to make sure you cover this side. So what we can do is we can still use our model in place to get into our model in place, and then we can just create a cap that is actually going to cover that. So we can call this roof 2, and then we need to set a work plane. We need to pick a plane, hit on OK, and then we want to select, you're going to want to select the face of this roof gutter in there. So we've selected that, and then we can head into our extrusion and then click on our pick line tools, and then we can start drawing that in there. So we can select this, and select this, and oops. So let's just select our pick line tool. I can select this and delete that, select this and also delete that. Okay, so this is perfect. So I can use the pick line tool and then just hit on my tab key, select that, hit on my tab key, select that, and this is perfect. And then I can hit on my tab key, select this, and I can just use the ordinary line tool to draw that to actually find this in there. So now you need to pay attention to your extrusion end in there. This is how much this is going to extrude. I want it to extrude inside of about just 50, so I'm going to do this negative 50. All right, so put this in there, and then you can specify a material in there. So we can finish that, and then you see what negative 50 is going to get us actually. So we can put negative 5. All right, so this is what we have in there. I think this is negative 3, so we can select this, and then we can change this to negative 3 to be of the same thickness as the roof in there. So you can copy this to actually go onto every single end we have in here. So you can close all those gaps you have on the roof gutter in there. So you can copy that. I'm going to finish that out of the way, and this is perfect. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. If you haven't liked this video, make sure you also like this video. Drop a comment in the comment section if you have anything you want to add, or if you have any questions. I'll do well to answer every single one of them. Now, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next part. Peace out.
I'm still working real hard on a Saturday. A future I don't see from a mile away.